session, and welcome everyone. So that we hope that we combine today all the sustainable projects with wind energy, so that you have like a little bit of flavor of what wind energy is, and what a wind energy project looks like. Hopefully, even we in this session, we are going to build a wind farm together. The wind farm is going to be called Field Wind. Okay, so that yeah, you are going to see how this looks like in reality. At least has this flavor. So the session is going to be having a context of what is wind energy in all this renewable environment, in the net zero 2050 context, where the world goes and what is the role of wind energy there. So just to set the context. And then we will build our own wind farm, which is field wind. Yeah. And it's just project related. So you are going to understand how to manage a project, how are the phases, how the components look like, what is the important of each of the phases. You are going to see in all these presentation that there are lots of opportunities, not only in wind, but also in renewables, in the sustainable world. And hopefully by the end of the session, you also can see that there are different ways of contributing in different sectors, different roles, different techniques, different skills needed. So it's not just the good thing is that it's not just one particular skill in one particular area. There are lots of opportunities to contribute, and you will see that also there is a very good connection of these global trends of sustainability on one way, and digitalization, the AI and these kind of things on the other. And there is a very close connection, and they can complement each other very well. And then at the end of the session, we will see 4+1 ways to promote sustainability, and where we will learn how to measure the carbon footprint, just to know where we are and what is doing wind energy, how to measure it, and also what wind energy has to do with circularity, for example, with partnerships, how to promote this sustainability, but always, as this is a session of wind energy, with examples and particular approaches in wind energy, and the takeaways at the end. Okay, I'm not seeing the screen right now, but any question or comment, feel free to jump in, or Ruth is so kind to help me with this.
No questions yet for you, Manuel. Thank you.
Then let's establish the context, so that we have this umbrella for all the session, and we understand where we are in wind energy with in regards to the rest of the renewables, and this world that goes with no doubt to be greener, more sustainable in this first step in 2030, and then the net zero in 2050. I would say that I would like to explain this approach, that I have this people, ideas, projects, delivery. Why I like sustainable projects? Because two main reasons. Projects are all about people. You don't just click the button and make an agreement. There are people everywhere, and we lead people. And second, projects transform the ideas and the strategies into real value. So what does it mean? That no matter how beautiful the PowerPoints or the statistics are, and the strategies, and if there is not a good project management, it's not going to be come into reality. And what happens if it doesn't go to reality? That it doesn't create value. Yeah. So sustainable projects satisfy the needs without compromising the future, And what I like, and we will see afterwards, they deliver value much longer than the project itself. For example, imagine a wind farm, we will see it, then we need to maintain it. There is more or less 20-25 the life of the component, years in the life of the components. We need to maintain the machines. So there is value there for the local people that can work all these other services that go around this wind farm. And also sustainable projects have this triple benefit of economic, social, and environmental. So how we combine all of that. This is why I like these people, ideas. We have lots of ideas, fantastic, but we make them happen through projects. We organize the projects, and through people, with people, we deliver what it was committed. So what is in this context? We have the Sustainable Development Goals as the umbrella here until 2030. There was the Paris Agreement signed in 2015 that sets the tone and the target that not to increase the temperature and have better capacity to adapt to climate changes. Yeah, how the crops can vary, the waves, the tides, the different in temperature. So how our communities are more resilient to that. And also we have the sustainable energy transition to carbon neutrality in 2050. And for that, there are lots of measures. For example, the European Green Deal in the United States, it was signed a 10-year commitment in the US as well. Recently, 2 weeks ago, I think the European Union, for example, in wind energy specifically approved a wind energy package with 15 measures with very clear intention of promoting wind energy in Europe. Also the European Investment Bank funding or giving technical advice to commercial banks in order to put more finance and more loans to the companies, so that really this green transition is a reality. Because as said, if it's just in PowerPoint, it is good, but it's not going to bring the value for what it was created. And now at the end of this month, it starts the COP28 in Dubai. So that another round to strengthen commitment to mobilize funds. So all this like macro environment goes pro sustainable. And some examples, as I said before, it's not just wind. There are lots of areas where we can contribute. Onshore wind is on our left for sure, but we have hydrogen, we have solar, we have autonomous car, electrics, renewable heating in our houses, reduce inefficiencies in our grids, so that everything that we produce goes to the final point of consumption. And what is this all about? We cannot go alone, neither in wind nor in the rest of renewables, because this is a huge task, challenging task, and the combination of technologies and sectors is what really brings the value. For example, the wind with hydrogen, it seems it's going to match very well. For example, wind energy, we produce energy mostly. For example, if we produce during the day, there is consumption during the day, but during night, there is lower consumption. But the wind turbines can keep producing. So innovating with storage technologies will bring like a leap for that, because we will have the power to produce wind energy, consume what we need at that moment, and store for the moments that there are less production than consumption. That would be like great when we can really implement this in real life. All the education that is needed in the different countries to have the technical knowledge to manage this kind of wind farms. And we will see that also how wind turbines, around 80% of a wind turbine is mostly recyclable. It's built of components that can be recycled. So how we think about circularity from the very beginning, yeah? When we need to decommission a wind farm, when we need to replace some component. So it's not just thinking input to output, but how those components can be also inputs for other processes, okay? So once we have this, the wind energy sector, yeah, increasing volumes during this year, more to come. Certain that in the short term it's challenging times. Why? Because of this increase in the prices of the raw materials that affects the sector. This is also why the European Commission, for example, and the American government has been so clear, like putting funds on the table so that this can keep having this trend, because otherwise we won't reach the ambitious targets in 2030 and 2050. And if you can see here, we can see on the left side, this is a graph of the amount of wind installations that must increase by 2050. Yeah. So, for example, and here's a fact just for you to have this feeling of what are we talking about. Yeah. For example, Europe has currently 255 gigawatts of wind capacity, yeah? But 30 more per year will be needed to comply with the targets. But the actual rhythm is 19, so it's like almost 1/3 more, yeah? So how everyone, and also on the right, the share of the wind energy within this renewable picture, now it's around yeah, 8 to 10% will be now, more or less, and then it needs to increase so that the renewables itself have a higher amount of the portion of the energy produced, and then if renewables increase, how wind energy share also that increase. Yeah. So everything that with the context, with the policies, with the frameworks, with the statistics in place, how we need to increase. There are lots of technologies. How we combine. We are in this world. Okay, so with this is the first part. This is the context, a world that is going to more sustainable, and certainly wind energy is an important part of that equation. So now that we know where we are ready to build our own wind farm. Yeah, it's going to be here with you. We are going to do it together, step by step. So the wind farm is going to be called Feel the Wind. Yeah. So by the end of the session, hopefully you can feel this wind, and we can all produce green renewable energy. Okay. So first, that we are here in project management, we could say like the first question, and this can give us the flavor of what is wind about and the components, is really all about projects. Yeah. Do we manage wind energy as projects? And we could say yes or no. What is a project? It's something that has a beginning and an end. There are different cases, so no matter if whether it's the same product, but maybe the customer is different, or the conditions are different, the countries are different, the laws are different. Is this something applicable to the wind energy sector? So let's see these pictures that come afterwards, just to see whether it's the same, or we are talking that we customize each project and that each project is unique, and how we bring value in different parts of the world, and in different with different conditions in place. Okay, so here we can see a vessel. These are the foundation for an offshore wind turbine. This yellow part here, you will see it right on top of the of the level of the sea, you see that there is a stair there. There is where technicians climb up in case they go with the vessel to the wind turbine. If there is, they are bringing some tools, some materials, they climb up there. And on top of this yellow, this is where the tower of the wind turbine will be assembled. Here there are different ways, in the winter there is the sea, there is a mountain, there are different ways of doing it, and we can see different pictures. And the last ones we can see in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. There we can also need to deliver actually, so that it is also possible in certain countries to have their own renewable energy, and in this case their own wind energy. You see in the left side, in the right side of the picture, you don't see anything, and it's not because like the picture is customized. No, there is nothing there. It's just the desert. And then you can see the tower of one of the wind turbines being assembled. So what we could say that, yes, the wind energy sector is all about projects, from the beginning, from the contract signature until the handover to the customer. It's all about projects. And this is great. This is what I like, because each project is different. There are different conditions, different people, different customers. There are countries involved. There are local regulations. There are standards, international standards, because we cannot put there just a wind turbine. There are certain rules, regulations, standards, health and safety, so important with this kind of components. Quality is important as well. So wind energy is all about projects. Okay, and we've seen the pictures, but maybe it's important to compare to day-to-day figures, so that you have this kind of flavor. Imagine that the height of a full wind turbine, more or less 195 meters, 200 meters. Imagine it's 65 floors, 70 floors, depending. So it's a huge skyscraper. Just a comparison, the Statue of Liberty, 93 meters, 65, 70 floors. Imagine being a technician and assembling that wind turbine in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the sea, And this is something I like. For example, an 80 meters blade, which is not the longest one, but let's put, for the example, 80 meters blade is as wide as an Airbus 380, which is the world's largest passenger plane. So imagine the dimensions, or 70 average size cars, one of the nacelle that we will see it, So the dimensions are very, very high. So this is why health and safety is so important. The procedures to follow is so important. When we talk about project management, we can ask, do you apply agile or do you apply predictive project management, waterfall, for example? And we say no. Once we have a contract, once we have a design, we know exactly what it needs to happen to produce the energy committed in the contract. So the project is waterfall. We cannot do any guess on whether it's going to produce that energy or no. Or, for example, if the blades or if the tower is going to resist the forces of the blades turning. We cannot have any doubt about that. We need to be sure, and for that, this is a waterfall approach. If there is, for example, if we are negotiating a contract, for example, or a new rule, or we are investigating some issue, or we are deciding how to transport, the best way to transport a blade. For that, we use Agile. Yes. So this is also why I like these projects, because we can combine different methodologies into one project. So when we are in ideation phase, seeing the best way to do it, it's Agile. But once we decide, for example, the route from the harbor to the site, then we comply with that. Yeah. So fully waterfall. Okay, great. And in one project, one wind energy project, there are different projects. Yeah. For example, we have the development phase. There we need to measure the wind. Is this a good place to put a wind turbine there? Or is there wind? Is there enough wind to make the business case feasible? What kind of contract are we going to sell? Is there any international development bank going to finance the operation? Do we need any due diligence? This is the development phase. Yeah. How many wind turbines in this area? Which height? Which technology? Yeah. What is the planning? The development phase. It takes quite a long time. It depends, 2-4 years. It depends, but it's not a short-term period for sure. Yeah, and also the government needs to come, because we are putting a wind turbine in the middle of the sea or in the middle of a mountain. So we need permitting, yeah, and the authorities needs to give permits. The environmental impact need to be assessed and classified as correct. So this development phase is when we develop the contract, the technology and everything. Then we execute the project. Yeah, we have a paper, we have a contract, we don't have anything else, and lots of ideas, and but only a contract. Then we need to manufacture or purchase the components. Then we will transport them to site. Regularly, we will see some pictures so that you can have this flavor. We will have customs in the middle. International movements are very common in the wind energy sector. Then we need to build up the wind turbine on site. We start producing energy, and then we maintain the projects the number of years according to the lifetime cycle of the components. And for sure, transversally to all the phases, the health and safety, the quality, the lessons learned, the customer satisfaction, as in any other project. But here, the health and safety, for example, super important, as we have seen the dimensions of the components, and we see that our operations, the logistics, the construction, the maintenance is not done in a controlled environment. For example, in where we have a warehouse or a factory, or we have controlled environment. It's in the middle of the environment. So needed that the health and safety protocols are very, very accurate, and everyone goes to work and comes back safe. Okay, so super fantastic. Then we are going to see step by step with pictures, so that you can have this flavor. Okay, not just the wind farm itself as we saw at the beginning, but each of the different phases, the logistics phases, the construction phases, the startup phases, you are going to see. Yeah, and this is, you can see waterfall. You cannot start the construction if you don't have the components on site. You cannot have the components on site if you haven't manufactured them. You cannot manufacture if you don't have a contract. Yeah, so it's a sequence, a waterfall. Yeah, okay. So here the first step is the civil and electrical works. We need to transform a land in an area ready to put a wind turbine, and we have two different elements: the electrical ones, so that when we produce when we generate the energy with the wind, then we can produce the energy and transfer it to the grid. And also the installation of foundation, regularly concrete that we are going to put them on where we are going to put the tower. Okay, so I have a colleague that usually says when you look up in a building, in a wind turbine, generator, when you look up, always think that there are lots of things below the ground. And in this case, it's clear. All these that you can see in the middle of the picture, that won't be seen when the tower is put on top. Okay, then the logistics, you can see we have the storage, we have the transportation, we always have customs, and you can see that there are special transport. So it's not conventional, this is not courier, this is not small packages, last mile delivery, for example, as in the city. These are special trucks, special toolings. We need special permits from the authorities. There usually goes some escorts with the goods, with the components, and depending on the sourcing origins of the components, the project might be more complex or not. Imagine, for example, components coming from Europe to LATAM, or from China to Europe, or from North America to LATAM, or from Germany to Germany, or from Spain to Spain. It's not the same. The complexity is not the same. And the origin is very important for the complexity of the project. Here we can see there is a specific vessels for that, a specific layout where specific toolings, for example, on the left, those are blades. You can see the towers. You can see on the upper side left, this is like the machine, this is the nacelle. So specific toolings. There are drawings, procedures for each of those operations. Yeah. And you need to have a certain level of qualification to implement those works, this kind of thing. Same as it happens in construction. You can see, for example, this blade, there are certain maneuvers and the escorts there. We need to be very careful. We don't just say one day, okay, I'm going to transport this blade. No, we need the permissions, we need the drawings, we need the roadmaps. Everything is calculated so that this is a very important, the planning is a very important part of a wind energy project. Then now the components are on site and we need to build our wind farm. Yeah. So for that, the civil works need to be finished. And once we assemble, you can see that here on the left, we are assembling the blades. On the left side, we are assembling the towers. And you can see another element of these wind energy projects, that we are on site, but there are people at the office, engineers, technicians, quality, planners. So it needs to be a very good communication between the site and the office. And you can see here the challenges. Maybe the language is not the same. The communication from site might not be a perfect one. The internet might not work very well. Maybe on site they are working on hours that there are not office hours. So this is very relevant, how the communication goes between all of us. Yeah, and the different components. You can see the toolings, the cranes. There are always cranes, how the blade is coming, and how we are putting the nacelle on top of the tower. Yeah, different elements. And then when everything is assembled, we can click and produce green energy. Yeah, produce green energy to the grid. And when we produce the green energy, always with health and safety and quality, we hand over the project to the customer and to the next step, which is operation and maintenance, how they are going to maintain the wind turbine for 20-25 years. This is a very good milestone. And during operation and maintenance, I would like to point out this thing that I told you before, the intersection with data analytics, with artificial intelligence. Why? Because the wind turbines produce lots of data of power, time stop, that they are stopped, they are producing, in which conditions, then that can be used with a feedback loop to improve designs or to do preventive maintenance and have less inefficiencies, so that will be better for the environment. Yeah, so data analytics is very important. Yeah, so that you are seeing, yeah, not different skills in project management. Also, data is relevant. Contract management, logistics, construction, installation, work at the office, work on site, logistics, customs, different languages, international teams. This is the kind of dynamic environment that we are in. Okay, so now congratulations, because you have your own wind farm, field wind farm, with the context, how we manage a project, the image and the comparisons with day-to-day figures, and the different phases of the project. Yeah, and in these minutes, now we can promote sustainability in projects. And I have brought here 4+1, one because applies for everything, and 4 specific ones. And I will put examples of wind energy so that you can have this feeling. Okay. So measure, early approach, 4 R's mindset, and partners. Okay. The first one is people at the center, same as we are doing here today. Awareness, engagement. If we know what we need to do, if we know what is our impact in sustainability, how my daily activities are going to impact in the targets, in the KPIs, how can I contribute to have a greener world, I will be more engaged. And then I will propose, I will be more proactive. I cannot do anything if I don't know it. So awareness is the first things of all. And this applies for everything. So really also thank you to this PMI Sustainability Summit, to the organizing committee, to bring this together, and to all of you to be here with me in this session. Okay. Then moving, we need to measure. Yeah, this applies for everything. And there is a protocol. This is the greenhouse gas protocol. And is the most widely used framework to think about measuring and reporting these greenhouses in the world. Yeah, it provides the framework, and it covers the different greenhouse gases. No, so that, well, at least there is a standard that can be applied all over. It's not mandatory but it's like a widely recognized standard, and we can compare one to other. Yeah, and yeah, we can also calculate our carbon footprint. When you see, okay, I've yeah, my emissions are I don't know, whatever kilos per liter, or carbon dioxide per liter, whatever. Where does it come from? Very simple. Activity data, that is the parameter that defines the level of activity. For example, the amount of natural gas used, the liters of gas of the petrol used in your car. Yeah, it's the activity. For example, the solar or the wind energy, our emissions are like on our activity 0. So what we calculate is the number of emissions avoided to the atmosphere, and then the emission factor, which is a fixed factor published in this framework, in this protocol, so that you can see your activity, and then you can have a factor. You multiply them, and then you obtain the number. So next time that you see the figures on TV, on a report, you know exactly where they come from. And you can calculate your own carbon footprint. There are carbon footprint calculators widely spread on the internet. so that you can know in your day-to-day activities. Our video, the one prior to this session, says something like that. So I commute to my work, I go with my kids, then yeah, what is the level, what is my carbon footprint in a year, for example? And it's not only important the level, but the important thing also is the trend. How are we avoiding and being more efficient? Here is something that I like very much. You also see that we have 3 scopes to measure. And the scope 1 is the direct emissions by ourselves, our company, something that we can measure. The scope 2, indirect, so this is electricity consumptions, gas consumptions, heating consumptions. And then the scope 3 is the one coming from our suppliers. So this is more difficult to measure, because you need the data of the whole value chain of your suppliers, of your customers, the transportation. You need lots of data. So in a step-by-step process, it's usually scope 1. You know what you can measure, so that you start improving from there. Yeah, emission scope 1, 2, and 3 is also widely used in this greenhouse protocol. Okay, second, and very relevant, introducing sustainability from the very beginning, like in the picture, not at the end, seeing how everything goes. No, from the very beginning, from the design. How can I design this better to be green? For example, in our case, we designed the wind turbine so that it can be recyclable. Yeah, 80% more or less of the wind turbine is made of components that can be recycled. But there is the rest, that is composites, is carbon fiber, mainly for the blades, that, yeah, there are lots of very smart, like people and many funds trying to find the way of a very good recycling of the blades. Yeah, so that when we replace, for example, a blade, or there's a repowering in the machine, so that means that we change some components and we update the wind turbine. So we don't change the whole tower, the whole wind turbine. So certain components. What can we do with those components? So if we think about that from the very beginning, from the design phase, what is going to happen when we decommission, then the next steps downstream will be easier. Yeah, if we, for example, need to transport the components, okay, can I do it so that the transportation can be more efficient? For example, for that, the tooling is very well. In the same truck, we can transport, or in the same vessel, we can transport more than one blade, for example, or more than one nacelle, more than one tower. Yeah. Okay. So thinking about design from the very beginning, and also this 4Rs methodology. Yeah, the reduce inefficiencies for sure, the reuse, recycle. If we have thought from the very beginning in this, not just at the end, it will be easier. And something that we like very much in wind energy is regenerate. Yeah, once we finish the wind farm construction, then one of the conditions is to put the lands as it was in its original state, or even better, and plant trees, these kind of things, so that, yeah, we contribute not only with our own products and with the energy, clean energy that our products produce, but also regenerating the land that we are in. And the last one is partnerships and alliances. You have seen that this is very big. Yeah, so we cannot go alone, and we need to have partnerships, mainly in wind energy. For example, synergies among organizations for funding, how, for example, the multilateral bank can yeah, advise the commercial banks technically, how we can combine with technical advisors to install it better, how we can, for example, partner with truck companies in order to design more efficient trucks, for example, how to design with supplier better and more efficient raw materials, for example. Yeah, be green and promote green. Yeah, not only ourselves, but how we have the action. And this is also for us in the session, not just that this knowledge of this PMI sustainability summits remains with us, but how we can spread that knowledge and partner so that all of us together we can make that bigger. Yeah. Okay. So a virtuous circle all over, from the manufacturing, the design, the purchasing. How can I be more efficient? But not just myself, my whole value chain. So then people at the center, for sure, we saw it. Thinking about measuring our carbon footprint. If you don't measure, you don't know how to improve. The second one, one was design from the beginning. Think about sustainability from the very beginning. In our case, with the decommissioning of the wind farm, apply these 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and regenerate. Circularity all over, and then partners that's to complete and not to go alone. And just finishing with the takeaways, we have seen the context, the baseline. We have built a huge and great wind energy project, field wind. We know how to promote sustainability in projects and how this is applied from a wind energy perspective. And the takeaways from the session: people at the center. We have a target to 2030, 2050 for the net zero. Carbon neutral economy. We would say, be conscious about your carbon footprint and the one in your company. Think always about not just input outputs, think circular. Yeah, what can I do with this? How can I reuse it? How can I recycle? How can I use it for other purpose? Can I repurpose this? Circularity. Yeah, give a second life, third life to everything. How we can partner for that. We are not alone on this. Yeah. Hopefully you've seen these sustainable projects. There are opportunities all over. You not only designing new ways of being more sustainable or new engineering approaches. Maybe you have other expertise, then you can manage projects. You can be a technician, then you can work, for example, in finance, evaluating projects, in quality, advising about the quality, the technical standards, drafting new protocols. There are lots of ways. You can recycle what others are using. There are different opportunities. It's not just one direction, one way. This is what it's all about. International standards, very important. How we build the wind farms, and also in project management, as you've seen that we are international. For example, these certifications of PMI, that we all talk about the same language, and we talk about the same faces, the same approaches. We understand each other. What is scope? What is a framework? What is a process? Yeah, international.
Manuel, I'm going to be very rude and interrupt you here. We have 5 minutes left of the session,
No.
and we have a whole host of questions in the
Okay.
Q&A tab for you.
Great. So we can combine technologies, the governance of sites and office, and promote sustainability all over. So many thank you. It's been great to be with you, and happy to engage. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I must say, I live in Inverness in the Highlands of Scotland, and there is a massive wind farm about 10 miles from where I live that's been under construction for a number of years. And the photographs that you showed of the pieces being transported, and yeah, I commonly see police escorts for huge pieces of turbines coming through. So that, yes, that felt very at home to me. Lovely. So we have some interesting questions here, considering the scope of today's event. Have you, or are you aware of, climate changes impacting wind patterns or impacting resources to build your turbines? Is there anything you can comment on in terms of the environmental change we see and how it's impacting your projects?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good question. For example, imagine the sea. Imagine the sea. We have wind farms in the sea, for example, near shore or far away, for example, 80 miles from the shore. Imagine, for example, that we have very quiet winds, and then you calculate your business case regarding this. And imagine that due to climate change, there are like more tsunamis, or the wind is not so predictable, for example, or it changes. Then it might impact your project for sure. Or imagine, for example, an area where you have done the technical assessment for the soil, for the ground, for the foundations, and you calculate a certain level of loads that the wind turbine needs to support. Yeah. Imagine, for example, in this picture, imagine that this is a picture, but now climate changes. And for example, here it doesn't rain, for example. It's an area that it doesn't rain. And now it starts raining. But imagine that it's not just that it rains today. It completely changed the climate. And we are going to be there at least for the future 25 years. And then hopefully there is a repowering, so there will be more years. But we need to be sure that those grounds, those foundations, are going to also be in good condition for the new climate. So it's a constant adaptation, and there will be met mast, we call it that measured winds and the intensity, this kind of thing. So certainly it might impact.
So very much in the early stages of your development, you're thinking about not just the site as it is now, but the site of the farm as it may be in 25, 30 years' time. Brilliant.
In the development phase.
Yeah, super. Okay. I have a question here from Clarissa. So she talks about there's quite a bit of publicity in terms of the impact of wind farms on the environment, in particular birds. Can you talk about how that impact on the environment, and in particular birds, is taken into consideration in your projects?
Yeah. Thank you. Two sides for this question. Not only, if you allow me, not only birds, but also, for example, we could talk about communities. Yeah, because in some countries, for example, in Germany, for example, there are wind farms, close to some communities where people live. But starting with the birds, there is something that is measured in the environmental impact and also in the planning of the project. For example, I've lived these real cases. For example, birds, for example, I've had cases with bats, for example, and then in the assessment, you are allowed, for example, to install the wind farm in a certain period of time. Why? Because imagine there are some birds that populate this area, or the bats or whatever. So it's taken into account. Also, there are some sort of signs or beacons, but some signs, for example, there are some signs for some particular birds in one case that I had, that we don't hear them, for example, but they hear, so that they can know whether there is, like, they are not in danger of when a blade is turning, that they are hit it. And another case can be also communities. For example, how we engage with them with the having this wind turbine. There has been some. It's called Not in My Backyard, for example. NIMBY. It's called NIMBY.
Yes.
So this is one of the challenges. Not only this is why I mentioned that project management is so important, not just to remain in PowerPoint, because these wind farms or solar or hydrogen, whatever, it's going to be somewhere. So how we engage with communities, the social acceptance of that, how we create win-win situation and scenarios with communities, with birds, for example, in onshore wind farms. But that is also very important with fish and marine and corals, for example, in offshore wind farms in the sea. How we
I'm going to have to call you a halt there. I'm so sorry. We have run out of time, Manuel, and there's a whole host of other questions there. But I think I'm just delighted to hear how holistic the project is and how you are thinking about environment and sustainability. It's not just about putting up a turbine and getting the electricity going. So thank you so much for your insights into the wind energy. Many thanks. Take care, everybody.
And thank you for being there, and yeah, hope it's been useful. Have a very good day.
My pleasure. Bye bye for now. Thank you.